Well, my friends, thank you so much for joining me today. One thing in the makeup world that has really caught my eye and I can't quite let go of is the thought of an old random lipstick from L'Oreal, like taking off, going viral, everybody wants it, everyone's seeking it out. We're used to seeing that with the latest, greatest, newest thing here and there, but it fascinates me that it's something older, and it got me thinking about just older drugstore products in general. And the other day I was using a CoverGirl blush that's very not new, the kind in this packaging, good old soft mink, if anyone's a fan of that. And it got me thinking about things from certain brands that are absolutely nothing new but still being sold, and maybe do a brand focused video like that. And I'm going to choose CoverGirl. There are a few things I had and a few things I needed to buy, and it's basically going to be an older CoverGirl makeup full face, because that's what really fascinates me. And I know CoverGirl's got some new like baked bronzers and blushes. I have not seen them anywhere near me. I would love to see them in person, but I haven't found them yet, and I've heard they're fantastic, and that's great. I'm sure they are. But I'm interested in some of that stuff that in the display is going to be down near the bottom area, and some things like this foundation that take me back to my absolute earliest makeup using days. I'm talking junior high cheerleading. So we're gonna get started and see what kind of look we can create. So I've got my skincare on, and there isn't like an older primer. Like there was a whole era where primer was not even a thing, so we're not even gonna do that step. But I am gonna use this product called Ultimate Finish. I remember being in 8th grade specifically and like getting ready to cheer at ball games, basketball games. I don't even know that I always wore makeup to school at that age, but I did have a little makeup bag that I would use before games, you know, because I'm going to be in front of the big junior high crowds. And I don't know, everybody was putting a little something on. And I had this cream compact, and it was shaped like this, and it came with a sponge like this. This is my brand new one. I almost gouged it as I was putting the lid on because it comes with the lid like sitting underneath it and you snap it in. I got the shade Creamy Natural, as I probably did back in the day. It's been ages since I've used something like this. It's a cream makeup. It feels pretty good. It feels like it's going to be workable, I guess. I also remember having like a powder foundation from CoverGirl also. I'm going to use this little sponge to sort of swipe it on, and then I would like to use a brush of mine to get it all blended. But I just feel like absolutely no one's talking about makeup like this. And I love just thinking about stuff like this. It takes me back. It doesn't look like tons is laying down, but I assure you I am picking some up on the sponge. It's really blending right back into my skin tone. I'm going to blend this in, and we'll see if we need to add any more. I want to use a brush that's not too big and a little bit stiffer for a cream consistency like this. Pressing in. What kind of coverage are we getting? Sometimes with creams like that, you would expect to see maybe a little added moisture and glow on the skin. I feel like I'm looking pretty matte, actually. It seems like the coverage level is super light. I'm going to add more. Especially here, center of the face. See where I've got it there on the nose. Of course, I want to know in the comments section who is still using this, who has this as their daily use foundation, and what's caused you to stick with it. It's part of the Outlast line, actually. It now says Outlast all day. That helped considerably, a little bit of building. And of course, for some reason, I have to randomly blow my nose. Okay, I'm gonna repair that a little bit now. Do. Honestly, not too bad. And I imagine on my little 8th grade skin that was basically flawless and didn't need anything on it, it probably acted like foundation and concealer together for me at that time. And my skin does not feel particularly tacky, but it does not feel dry at all. It kind of feels like I just applied your average liquid foundation. In terms of just the way the surface of my skin feels, this did not overload me with moisture. Then we've got our stick concealer. This one is good. This is something I've had on hand. I use occasionally. I believe it's from their Smoothers range, which is known to be more hydrating, and I have the shade Light. And we're going to use this as our lovely little under eye concealer and just conceal anywhere on the face. As you can see, the tone is good. Up here, around the nose. I'm going to use my little Morphe brush right in here and just dab it in, and as you're going to see, we have some good coverage. I remember, I think the first concealer I ever owned was from CoverGirl, and it was called like invisible concealer. It would have been a far cry from a Shape Tape or an e.l.f. Camo concealer, but I would use it occasionally. Okay, I'm just pressing this product in. It's not like insanely brightening, but it's a really good skin tone match, just a little bit brightening. Back in with the foundation brush just to further tap in. Like, I'm enjoying the way this looks. Extra little targeted coverage boost that I needed, I believe. On the topic of loose powder, here's where it gets dicey for CoverGirl, and I'm surprised it hasn't really been corrected. It hasn't been that long since I had tried their clean, loose powder. I feel like it has always had a little bit of shimmer or actual visible sparkle in the powder. And I'm Googling again and I'm seeing like CoverGirl loose powder. You look it up, it's the clean, loose powder. That's what they have. At one time they had something called True Blend Minerals, but this clean, loose powder is the loose powder they have. Has anybody tried it super recently, and can you confirm that it still does have that little bit of sparkle? It hasn't been that long since I've tried it myself, and it definitely has this luminosity to it that I just don't want on my skin in that way. For that function, it's just not something I want to see like up on my under eye or around fine lines. So you know what I'm going to do today for that step? I'm going to pull in a little Maybelline Fit Me to set my under eye. She's iconic, hasn't been around quite as long. Gosh, does anyone want to come out? Not quite as old as some of the things being featured in this video, but she's like a middle-aged drugstore product. Oh, I could have used my Coty Airspun. But I'm just going to put this around under eye and T-zone. I have another powder to use elsewhere on the face. My under eye was not left looking particularly dewy, but we're really trying to make this look its best. Dust away. I feel a little more brightened and just a little more matte. And then is it a video about CoverGirl classics if we don't pull out a clean pressed powder? So this is the brown compact. It says clean invisible on there now. The shade I got this in is classic beige. You've got your little puff. We all had this, right? Guess what? It does not smell like Noxzema anymore. Not a bit. Okay, I'm going to use my little puff at first here. And you know, I needed a new little purse powder anyway. We all need a little touch-up powder and mirror duo. Powder does not have to be amazing. It just needs to, you know, do the job. I'm getting some of this on this brush. It's going to be a matte powder. It's reminding me a lot of Rimmel Stay Matte. It's really firm. It's not kicking up a cloud. If you do need something like gentle setting-wise, this would do it. Like, I still don't feel insanely dry to the touch. And then remember, there was like an unscented version. There was a version in like a green compact, a blue compact. Oh, I love it. Here's another thing where I'm going to have to pull in a substitution because CoverGirl does not have an older bronzer. At one time they had a Cheekers bronzer, but that was a long time ago. So for this step, I'm just going to pull in a fellow drugstore bronzer just to get the job done today. We're going to use Maybelline City Bronzer. Not going to bring in anything super newfangled and crazy here. Picking up a little bit of this very sunny bronzer, and we'll get this around the hairline. If we're wanting to save money at the drugstore, I know I talk about it a lot, how there are some brands that really have kept some reasonable prices. You know, you can find a lot of low-cost stuff. If you're looking at Wet n Wild and Rimmel, and Hard Candy's got a lot of lower-cost things. But also, even in your bigger brands, like if we're talking CoverGirl, L'Oreal, Revlon, if you dig deeper than the newest launches, the older stuff is more affordable by a lot. This is not like my fave bronzer, and I typically pair it with a contour, but she's doing okay for me. It's fine. Next up, blush. CoverGirl's got tons of things I would call classic blushes. The Cheekers range. Unfortunately, I'm not seeing instant cheekbones around anymore. It's super unfortunate. That was a great product where you got like 2 tones of blush and a highlighter, and they were making it way before like highlighter took off. But the CoverGirl blushes in this packaging too, like they just scream old school. Like I've had this one for quite a while, the one in soft mink. A little bigger compact than Cheekers. It's got a mirror. It's called Classic Color Blush. So we're going to use a little soft mink today, as this was the thing that gave me the idea to do this video. I think I'm losing a roller back there. Kind of earthy blush shade. Really feels kind of naturally occurring, you know? It's definitely got that satin finish, but it's really soft. Just easy to wear, a little bit of warmth in it. You see the compact and you're not really knowing what to think. But it's always been a good one for me. I've liked this a lot. And it feels a lot like the Cheekers formula, just upsize. And with it having that little bit of glow in it, can you see it catching the light some? It's not like CoverGirl's line has an old highlighter to draw from for this video, but I'm getting some glow. And then I'm going to do brows. I don't have an older CoverGirl brow thing. I do have a newer CoverGirl brow thing that is my actual favorite, the Clean Fresh Nano Brow Pencil. But I'll just take care of that step and we'll move on to an eye look. Brows are done. Like I said, I use that CoverGirl Clean Fresh Nano Brow Pencil and a little bit of Morphe Ripping Brow Gel. I also just put on some Milani eyeshadow primer. And now we're going to use a classic CoverGirl eyeshadow. And I know Shimmering Sands is the go-to, right? Shimmering Sands is the one we talk about all the time when we're talking about old school CoverGirl eyeshadows that everybody remembers. However, I just now repurchased something that I know I used to have, but decided to freshly get after this one again. It's Country Woods. As you can see, Country Woods is a quad. We have some shimmer in the middle. The other shades on the ends might be trying to actually have a little satin finish. I'm not sure, but we're going to use this today and see if we can get a look that we love. Outside shades look really similar to one another, but I would have to say in swatching, I can see this one's the deeper of the two. So I'm just going to grab some of that with my crease brush and get that going in the crease. Like I said, Milani eyeshadow primer is on. See if we can get a little creasy contrast here. All right. Country Woods, baby. I'm seeing some coming up here. It's buildable. When I think of beginner level eyeshadows, I think of CoverGirl. And it's interesting because they've kept their, what are these called? Eye enhancers? I don't know if they still call them that. Yeah, eye enhancers says right on the front. But we've seen CoverGirl come out with other types of eyeshadow as well, newer releases. But it's interesting that they hold on to some of those icons. And another one I got that I'll use in a future thing probably. I don't know if I've ever purchased Cafe au Lait, but I got that one too. Here we are, just adding a little softness here, and I feel like this falls right in line with the type of natural eye look a lot of people seem to want. I feel like I'm getting enough contrast and a little lift there on the outside. Might take a little bit of that light shade and just let it kind of come up under the brow. It's a shimmer, it's white. Okay, as it applies, I thought it was going to maybe be just a little chalky, but seems to lay down decently well. And then what you can do with the provided sponge tip is take some of that same dark shade. I say dark, but it's not really that dark. But you can pat that on your outer lid if you want to, and just have that flow into the crease. It's almost lighter looking when you pack it on. It's kind of strange. I'm going to flip to the other side, and I'm going to go to this shade that really has the more obvious shimmer. Can you see that I just swiped some on my inner lid? It's just super soft, guys. And that's okay. I knew that's what I was getting with this. I did not pick up a new CoverGirl eyeliner. Just patting it on. I could flip over to the other side of my more pointed sponge tip. Grab some of that. Ooh, she is a little bit flaky, that white, but can brighten. I come away looking like I have this naturally contoured eye, but just keep in mind, it's not a fully matte thing. I don't know if you can get close enough to see that even the shade that's kind of emerging up from the crease right in this area, there's a little bit of shimmer in that. I'm gonna take my small pointed brush. Let's use this one over here. I'm just gonna put some of that on the lower lash line, see if it gives us much of anything. It's giving me just a little, very softly smudgy definition. Eyeliner wise, my friends, I really need to go through my eyeliners and weed some things out, but I don't believe I currently have a CoverGirl eyeliner on hand. But what comes to mind as old school for me is the Perfect Point Plus with the little smudger tip on one end and a retractable liner on the other. Let me know if you've got any other memories, but that would be the thing I think of. However, I did repurchase this guy. This is the CoverGirl Professional Super Thick Lash Mascara. This is old school, friends. I hope this is not like already dried out somehow, because it's coming out just not looking very loaded up and almost a little dry toward the tip of the brush. We'll see. We'll give it a shot here. Are we almost to the point where we could think of CoverGirl Lash Blast as being an older mascara? That definitely came around after my YouTube time started. My first ever mascara I used was from CoverGirl, and it was the Professional Lash, and it was in like a blue colored tube. So let's see what we can get out of her. Okay, the brush may not have looked loaded, but I'm seeing some get applied here. I think it's definitely going to take me multiple coats to get the job done. Just yesterday I used my Exhibitionist mascara, a much newer one from CoverGirl, and I just love the look I get from that. Really bulked up lashes. But like I said, the older products, they're gonna be the less expensive ones. It's another strategy for saving from various brands in the drugstore. And like I said, when you go without the liner, sometimes it lets the lashes sort of stand out a bit more. This is not doing amazing, but it's doing something. I gotta say, it is doing something. I'm gonna move on to the other eye. Okay, starting to load up the old left eye. The brush kind of reminds me more of Great Lash than I remembered, just with the classic spiraled around nature of it all. It definitely is a drier formula. So dry that I'm questioning whether it may be a bit dried out. There's not a lot of turnover with some of these older mascaras in the store, I guess. Or maybe it's just the way this formula is and I forgot. I remember when it was in more of a red tube. It's giving me straight up like C work. I was gonna say C minus, maybe a C. I'm not going to bore you with the process, but I'm going to see if I can do like a couple more coats. I have done absolutely all I could do with that mascara. I really tried to like scrape the sides and get more out of it, and it just didn't want to build up a whole lot, unfortunately. But it is more of an old school mascara. It's not going to move mountains, and it is doing a decent job. But for lipstick, when I think old school CoverGirl, here's something I wish they would bring back. Does anybody remember, I think they were called lip slicks, and they were like a tinted lip balm type of thing. Some of the tubes were colorful. There was like a bronzy one in a yellow tube. Those were great. I wish they'd bring them back, but I want them to look exactly the same. But another thing I think of when I think old school CoverGirl are the continuous color lipsticks. And I have this one in the shade 770. I'm not sure what the actual shade name of that is. I guess I could look it up, but it's a frost. It's kind of a browny neutral frost. And I'm gonna pop this on with my look. It's not insanely frosty, but it's just got some. For some reason, when I was younger and starting out with makeup, I always thought it needed to be kind of a bronzy metallic lip. But there she is. There's the look. I'm gonna take out the rollers so we can get a good picture of this, okay? Finished look, my takeaway is that the complexion is looking better than I thought it would. It had been a while for me on the old Ultimate Finish. I think it truly does have some buildable coverage, and it looks pretty nice on the surface of the skin. Supplemented with a little bit of the stick concealer. Honestly, a pretty good look. And don't they have another cream compact that's like the more hydrating one? The pan in it is a circle. Anybody know what I'm talking about? But yeah, I think that's doing really well. The cheek looks amazing when you consider this is only blush. And look at that pretty glow I come up with. I don't know about the lipstick shade. I think it's okay. I think I could probably reinvestigate that line and maybe come up with something I like even better. Country Woods, our takeaway there is, yes, she is a barely there little eyeshadow quad. The shades, I mean, you look at it and you can see 3 shades that look like they're gonna be identical. And like one's a little deeper, 2 are pretty darn close, and then you got that white. As I swatch them back down on my hand, you know, I can see the subtle differences in them. I don't think I like it better than Shimmering Sands, but it's one of those it is what it is products. Like, just go in knowing it's gonna be a soft, subtle, low contrast eye. The thing I come away sort of liking the least, I guess, from this little old school CoverGirl reboot might be the mascara. Like, I wanted more out of that, and I suspect it could also be a little bit on the dry side, maybe from not being sold frequently and being on the shelf for a long time. That's just my little suspicion with that. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I had a blast making it. I couldn't wait to get up this morning and get up here and start working on it. And yeah, share your memories and old school favorites in the comments, and I will see you guys again soon. I love you. Bye.